So in chapter 7 of our book, it talks about how functionalism came to be a part of psychology, and it shows this by giving a summary of the lives of every psychologist that helped contribute to that development. And one of the psychologists that really stuck out to me was William James, just because he came up with these really cool theories, and he also kind of just had a really interesting life. He, according to the book, in his childhood, his dad's way of dealing with any of his kids being sick or like any problems, he would just send them to a different country or send them on a trip until they were better. And so with that, James traveled a lot when he was a little kid, and that kind of stuck with him within his adult life, and he traveled a lot, and he actually came up with this illness for himself that just by the definition of the symptoms describes kind of depression and stress. And he actually said the cure for it was traveling to different countries and going on vacations and pretty much procrastinating, because otherwise people would just become exhausted, and I guess they didn't want that. So I thought that was really interesting, and since he had this mindset of just wanting to travel and go a bunch of places, he observed a lot of different type of people and a lot of different environments and cultures, and it kind of gave him the psychological background the background he needed to get interested in psychology. And so with all of that and all of his knowledge, he came up with 3 different theories, which are pragmatism, his theory of emotion, and his 3-part self. And with pragmatism, which is important for functionalism, because pragmatism is pretty much what functionalism is. The definition of pragmatism would be to observe something or prove something by its practical consequences, or like how it can be practically applied to life. And with functionalist psychology, it's psychology that can actually be applied to a realistic setting, not just a research setting, so that the evidence or the results you get are actually pragmatic, pretty much. And then with his theory of emotion, this one's important. He said that he said that your actions influenced your emotions and made you feel, I think that's what it was. Okay, so James, with his theory of emotions, James believed that your emotions were influenced by your actions. So your actions came first. In the example that the book gives us is that when you see an animal that's going to attack you or kill you, your instinct or action of running brings on your heart rate and the fear you have of being killed. And what all of the other psychologists believed before him was the other way around, that you had those emotions first, and because you had those emotions, you in turn acted upon that. And so you would fear, and because you feared, you would run. And then his third theory, 3-part self, just pretty much said that our own being, who we are, our own personal self, is made up of 3 different aspects, which include our material self, which is our clothes, our house, our cars, our physical possessions that we have. And then our social self, which has to pretty much just do with our relationship and how we are seen in our social environment. So our class would fall into that as well. And then the third is our spiritual self, which would be our emotions, our own thoughts on ourselves, all of our inner mind, pretty much mindset, and that altogether made up who we are. And I thought all of those theories were really cool, and I actually really liked the 3-part self theory because it kind of makes sense with like how we balance out our health or our well-being, because we have to have all of those 3 aspects to be healthy. And then going back, though, to the theory of emotions, I thought it was interesting when I was reading it, because thinking about it about myself, because that's really the only perspective that I have, I am trying to remember if, like, what came first actually did come first, emotion or my actions. And it's kind of like that question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, it was weird like that because I couldn't think of which one actually does come first. So my question for you guys over this chapter is, what do you think? Like, honestly, with the stuff we read in the chapter and with what other psychologists believed and your own personal belief, do you think that our actions influence our emotions, or our emotions influence our actions, or if it's relative to the situation?